All right, boys and girls, as I'd mentioned in part one of this video lesson, we are going to read the story Verdi together. While I'm reading Verdi, you can follow along. I'm going to stop and ask myself about the characters while I read and really focus in on those traits, feelings, and motivations I find. So you can see I kind of set up a little chart here for myself so I can keep track. I'm going to ask myself questions while I read to help me identify the traits. If I'm looking for a trait, my question is going to sound like, how does the character behave most of the time? When I'm recording feelings down, it's going to be because I've asked myself the question, how is the character feeling right now in this specific moment? When I'm looking for motivations, we might find ourselves asking, why did the character do what they did? Okay, so those are the questions we're going to ask ourselves while we read today, especially when we come across our characters Verdi, and also a group of characters, the old greens, that he often interacts with through the story. Okay. Let's go ahead and pull our story up. I'm gonna pull it up like this so you can follow along if you'd like. Oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Okay. Verdi by Janelle Cannon. On a small tropical island, the sun rose high above the steamy jungle. A mother python was sending her hatchlings out into the forest the way all mother pythons do. Grow up big and green as the trees' leaves, she called to her little yellow babies as they happily scattered among the trees. But Verdi dawdled. He was proudly eyeing his bright yellow skin. He especially liked the bold stripes that zigzagged down his back. Why the hurry to grow up big and green? He wondered. Maybe some of the older snakes in the jungle could tell him. Verdi ventured into the treetops to look for them. All right, so we've been introduced to our main character, Verdi, so far, and he's experiencing quite a few feelings so far. He is feeling very proud of his yellow skin. He's also feeling curious enough to go out and ask the greens why they'd prefer to be big and green. Let's see what happens next. Well, here we're introduced to a group of characters, the old greens, that we're going to take a look at. Umbles, Aggie, and Ribbon were lazing on some branches nearby. Verdi peered at their droopy green bodies. It's not polite to stare, chided Aggie. Umbles burped and groaned. It's taken nearly 4 weeks for that last lizard to digest. I surely do like lizards, but lizards don't like me. Why don't lizards like you? Asked Verdi. Don't interrupt, Umbles grumbled. Dear me, whined Aggie. If I don't shed soon, this itchy skin will drive me bananas. Verdi tapped a tune with his tail as he waited to speak. Stop that, Verdi. It makes me nervous, Ribbon complained. Besides, you'll never grow up to be properly green, always interrupting and constantly fidgeting. Verdi couldn't imagine being in such a hurry to be like them, and he really wanted to keep his sporty stripes. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. Okay, let's stop to think about how the characters were behaving on this page, particularly those old green snakes. We can tell from the things that they said and the way that they're acting that they are quite lazy, grumpy, and boring, right? The things that they're saying show that they have a grumpy personality as well as a lazy and boring personality. So we're going to list that under traits. Verdi, on the other hand, seems to have opposite traits or an opposite personality. He is more energetic and outgoing than the green snakes. He's actively fidgeting, moving around, and asking questions. Let's see what happens next. At the top of a very tall tree, Verdi gripped one branch with his tail and another with his little snake jaws. I will never be lazy, boring, or green, he thought. I will jump and climb and keep moving so fast that I will stay yellow and striped forever. Then Verdi let go. Wow. Here he is again feeling very proud of his yellow skin like he was at the beginning. I'm starting to wonder if maybe that feeling is also a motivation of his, because this is now the second time it's mentioned that he's proud to be yellow and active, and he's trying to do something that proves he's active. Oh yes, that's very active, isn't it? Look how excited he looks. I personally would be pretty scared if I flung myself into the air, but you can tell from his smile that he's just having fun. He's feeling really excited in this moment. See how the greens, on the other hand, are feeling about him doing those tricks. From a distance, the greens watched. Oh my, they chorused. Ribbon shook his head. At this rate, he'll be lucky to make it to his first molt. Aggie nodded. He's likely to put an eye out on a branch. Humbles moaned. He may not live to turn green. They're feeling very worried and concerned about what Verdi's up to right now. They do not feel as excited about it as he did. But one day, Verdi's skin began to peel, revealing a pale green stripe stretching along his whole body. He gasped, "How can this be? I'm the speediest snake in the jungle, and I'm still turning green." He raced down to the river, grabbing up a mouthful of rough leaves. I want to revisit this sentence with you, friends. He gasped, "How can this be? I'm the speediest snake in the jungle, and I'm still turning green." This tells me that his feeling of being proud of his yellow skin was more than just a feeling. It is a motivation, because he's still doing all of these things that he thinks are supposed to keep him yellow, like being speedy and doing tricks, but he's still turning green and he's very concerned about it. So we're going to include that Verdi's motivated to stay yellow and active. He's acting the way that he is and doing the things that he does and hopes that he will stay yellow and avoid becoming green, lazy, and boring like the older snakes. Verdi flung himself into the water. If I can't run this green off, I'll scrub it off, he thought. So he's feeling really concerned about turning green, huh? Launching himself from the treetop, Verdi startled a flock of colorful birds. He became dizzy with delight, sure the bright sun and his lofty speed would turn him golden again. In his joy, Verdi forgot he would fall back to earth. Again, we see his motivation in his actions here. Verdi's trying to be active and keep his yellow color. It's very important to him. Whippity-wappity, flip-flap, wham! Plummeting through the trees, Verdi landed in a crooked sprawl across a log on the forest floor. He couldn't move. "Help!" he croaked. Oh no, how is he going to stay active now? As usual, the greens had been watching Verdi's antics. They moved quickly to where he lay. "Didn't we say it would come to this?" Humble said, shaking his head. Aggie sighed. "Lucky thing he's still got two good eyes." They gently lifted Verdi up to a safer place where they could watch over him while he healed. I'm going to add here to our old green traits that they're observant, meaning that they watch very carefully, right? Even when he was doing his tricks, they were watching from afar. So they could be described as having observant personalities. Neatly splinted to a branch, Verdi had no choice but to listen to the greens as they gabbed. "Remember how I used to streak across the forest floor?" Ribbon asked. "Quick as lightning," answered Aggie. and I climbed giant trees like they were nothing. They grew taller then, you know. The things I dared to run down and swallow, Umbles bragged. Wild boar were no match for me. Verdi was astonished. You used to run and climb and hunt giant pigs? What happened? Ribbon crashed, just like you, Aggie replied. I took a terrible fall and almost put an eye out. Then old Umbles here nearly choked to death. Now we all prefer the quiet life, a warm perch, a little sunshine, and an occasional good meal. The Greens rambled on about their days of glory, and Verdi settled in on his branch. Oh, okay, now I understand why the Greens act the way that they do. I see that their motivation is to live a quiet and safe life now, since they've already had their fun. They've explained to us that they used to be active like Verdi, but after having some experience getting hurt and growing older, they now prefer to have a quiet, though some may call it boring, life. They've already had their fun. That makes a lot of sense. Finally, one afternoon, Umbles said, "Looks like you are ready to go again." He carefully untied Verdi from the branch. "You are welcome to come with us," said Aggie. Ribbon agreed. The three Greens slipped quietly back into the forest. Verdi wasn't ready to join them. He was unsure where he wanted to go, so he just stretched and stayed put until the sun went down. He listened to the forest come alive. Time passed. The sun and moon took turns in the sky. Verdi marveled at as the full moon grew thinner every night. Then he watched patiently as it slowly grew round again. He wondered why he hadn't noticed that before. So we might say that Verdi has also become observant like the old Greens. He is now starting to look and listen very carefully to the things going on around him. Verdi became so green that he blended perfectly with the leaves. He was so still that the other creatures walked right by without seeing him. Wow, this reminds me of what Miss McCrae taught us about physical adaptations. How could the way Verdi looks now help him? One fine morning, as Verdi basked in the sunshine, two small yellow snakes approached. They tapped and fidgeted as they stared. "Get a load of that old green guy," one of them whispered. "Do you think he ever moves?" The other snickered. "I seriously doubt it." "They're just like I used to be," thought Verdi, "and I'm now what I was afraid to be." He looked at his big green body and slowly smiled. "How would you like to climb trees with me?" he asked. "With you?" The yellows were astounded. "I'll even show you my fancy figure 8, Verdi replied, though he was a little worried about putting an eye out. Okay, so now at this point in the story, Verdi's become more similar to the old Greens. He's a little bit quieter, maybe a little bit more boring, but he's still brave enough and willing to do some of his old tricks. Truly, he's remained brave throughout the whole story, so we're going to include that as one of his personality traits. He was brave as a young one when he went out all on his own to look for the Greens. He was brave as he did several tricks on his own, and he's brave now as he's showing the young ones his figure 8, even though he's grown older and experienced getting hurt before. With practice, the three snakes performed a perfect triple figure 8. Leaping and looping with his little striped friends, Verdi laughed. "I may be big and very green, but I'm still me." Even though he's all grown up, he's still himself at heart. He's brave and unafraid to take